Okay. Test, test, test. Maybe, maybe not. Okay. Well, I am going with the idea that I am now live. Apologies for the delays, technical things. So I basically had to do a bunch of stuff to reroute and make all this stuff work, hopefully. Maybe we can have a show now. Domain to Profit. This is Drew Walsh. And I hope that we can talk about, hopefully it's going out with reasonable quality. We're going to talk about, that moment when you wake up in the morning, or maybe you're in the shower and you have this great idea, like some new whiz-bang tool or some kind of business idea that you know is going to be huge. And you're like, man, I can make this happen. And then, we live in the internet age, and we, one of the first things we do, it seems, at least me, even before I knew about domain names, I would go out and I would start looking at domain names. What domain name matched my idea? Where would my business live? What home would I have? Well, if you've never done this, chances are you found that the domain name that you've wanted likely is already taken. It's already gone. So what do you do then? What do you do when, you have no option for a domain name, or even worse, you get to the domain name, it's not developed, but it's for sale for some ridiculous price. Or maybe in your mind, you're thinking it's ridiculous. Well, domains kind of fall into two camps. And we're going to talk about those two camps. One is the idea of brandables, or domain as art. And then, as I would refer to it as, domain as art, brandables. And the other one are the kind of practical domains, the keyword-based. We have data behind them. We can find data to help us decide whether the domain name is worth the amount of money that somebody may ask for it. Hopefully all that makes sense, because it's a problem that I've struggled with, ran into frequently, and we're going to help. Hopefully by the end of this, you'll be able to see some different ways to look at domain names so you can decide whether you want to spend the big money for the domain name or look for an alternative. And we'll even talk about what some of those alternatives would be as well. With that said, I'm going to attempt to push a button and we'll get going on Domain to Profit. I didn't mention this up front, but I'm actually in Las Vegas now. I woke up like super early, before 5 a.m., got on a plane, flew out here, attempted to set things up, evidently did not get it perfect, but wow. It's I'm a slightly exhausted. I do this stuff all the time. I love to travel, love to do the show on the road. It does change things up, creates a lot of problems that I have to solve on the fly. And evidently today we had more than usual. So you'll see these travel shows every once in a while. The quality of production, I guess you could say, goes down a little bit. But we get to still look through lots of expired domains and talk about domain names and how we can make a bunch of money, or just make your dreams for, maybe you want to travel all over the place as well. Domains can make it happen. They have for me. So I'm a little nervous about sharing screens, but we're going to go ahead and do this. And I'm worried because there may be some lag. That's what I'm nervous about. But okay, so I'm going to share out screens. Apologies if there's any lag, but I want to start off by looking through today's domain name auctions, the domains that are up and available on GoDaddy to start with. These GoDaddies, we're going to set up our filters. And I guess you can say I'm a little bit off my game, but that's okay. We all have our days when we or a little not 100, not all the energy there, you might not broadcast it live, but that works. Either to each of us, whatever we decide to do here. So as you probably saw, I just set up my domain filters on expireddomains.net. And here you're going to, this is where we look at all the different domains that are available that are expired this week and available for anyone to buy at auction. Just, that is, assuming you're willing to pay the money necessary to win it. By default, these domains, we get rid of hyphens, we get rid of numbers, we only look at .coms, we look for English words. You're welcome to use whatever language you prefer. And then we default order things by this over here, which is GoDaddy's valuation. You'll see here not a ton of high price domains, and you'll see in the next column the current high bid as of when this list was pulled, probably this morning. And on here you'll see a wide range of domain names, everything from a few $100s or maybe even $20 all the way up to thousands of dollars. And then last week I talked about doggroomers.com, which I purchased for $104,000. Huge, giant amount of range in domain names. What decides a $20 domain from a $104,000 domain or a $20 million domain? Isn't that, I mean, it's madness, the amount of space that can be, there can be in these domains. Hopefully the ones that we see today are reasonably priced and we can find you a great opportunity at auction. So I'm going to zoom in here and we're just going to kind of go down the list. All my bells and whistles of different systems are now gone and we are just me and you. And I can't even see myself, so I just have to kind of assume that that things are good. So the way that we do this is I look at the domain names. I'm going to pull some out that I think are great for development. You are welcome to as well in the chat mention a domain name that you see that you're wondering why I'm passing it up or why I'm not actually talking about it, because chances are I either missed it or I didn't view it as kind of worthy of development or a very good development domain name. And I love to share it both as well as why I wouldn't. Always good information there. I will not be able to see chat until I take screens off due to the way I have things set up. So there'll be a little more back and forth than usual. Phonesurveys.com. I don't know. What do you think? Let's see if coming up. So we have to click on them. We have to check each domain, because just because they show up on the first list does not mean that they actually are going to be available. The current owner may have renewed it. In this case, it looks like we have 3 days left. Phonesurveys.com, $71 is the current bid. Phone surveys. What I like about phone surveys, or the idea of any keyword domain like this, is phone surveys. Once you hear it, you immediately get an idea of what should be on this domain name. I'm thinking it's a service related to, being able to ask questions to a list of phone numbers. Maybe even one of those annoying automated ones. Who knows? Either way, you can build it out on phonesurveys.com, provide that service, or list services that do those. And here's why I love these keyword ones. In the beginning, I talked about how there's domains, this idea of art domain. And I say they're art because realistically, the price is 100%, like, it's up to the seller. It's up to the buyer. You can look at what things have sold for in the past. You can kind of create all kinds of different ways to value something, but realistically, it's art, and it could be worth millions or it could be worth nothing. Who's to decide? It's up to both parties to decide. Those are brandables. That's the art piece. But with phonesurveys.com, for example, we actually get to look at it from a data standpoint. So we can actually talk about the data a little bit, which I love the data. I'm a data guy. So when we go to data, we get to use tools like SEMrush A new tool that I want to introduce you to this week, I've mentioned it in the past, but it's actually becoming my favorite tool for keyword research right now, and that is this one here. This is SpyFu. Oh, that's why I can't share screens. So here's SpyFu, and one of the reasons, and that's spy as in spy, F-U. Okay, so SpyFu is the name of this. And here's why I love this. You get a lot of the same data from as you can get from SEMrush. However, the free version of SEMrush limits, you only get like one major query, I believe, for free. SpyFu gives a lot of information away for free. And I really like some of their tools, which you're going to see here in a second. And this is not a sponsor. I actually do not even have a paid account with them yet. I will be setting up a paid account as at some point. When we type in whether it's SEMrush or SpyFu here, SpyFu, it is what we're looking for is we're looking for that data. It's not art. We're not looking for art. We're not looking for, oh, in the eye of the beholder, I like orange more than green or purple more. Like, no, it doesn't matter how the art speaks to you. In this case, what we're really looking for is, does this domain name get keyword searches? Is there an industry around it? Are people interested in the topic? All logical things, all things that can be measured. So when we type in phone surveys here as a keyword into SpyFu, you can see, and this is one of the things I like about SpyFu, it estimates the monthly searches that you would actually be able to impact. So when you scroll down, when you look at SEMrush, it shows you this number here, which is the Google provided data. And I found that the Google provided data is often like, well, it's kind of garbage. In many cases, that number's either really high or really low compared to actual traffic. There's numerous examples I could give, but pretty much if you type in a keyword into each of those two tools, you're going to see pretty quickly that those two numbers fluctuate. And I found that their estimate here, this monthly volume, which is their proprietary formula based on other traffic and different things, it's pretty accurate. So we can look at this and say 270 is the estimate of the traffic that's kind of looking for this. There are similar keywords, but as you can see, there's not really data that says this domain name's worth a fortune or this domain name has a big industry behind it. In fact, if you look over here, how do you stop phone survey calls, which that would be me. I'd be one of the guys over here searching for how do I block these people. So $71. What can you do with phone surveys? You can go the providing tools and services related to phone surveys, or you could even go the blog way and provide people what they can do about getting rid of phone surveys or something like that. Not the greatest domain. Hopefully it's going to be priced below $200. I would say more or less, but based on these numbers, I want the price to be at this or lower, just for even a fun domain. And you can actually also see here cost per click. Those are Google provided numbers, the estimated cost per click. So here people are paying money to show up for this keyword, not liking it. Like I said, if you can get that for a couple $100, maybe a good domain. Going to bypass that one. Beer Tower. So I'll give you an example of one of the domains I'm going to skip on here, and that's comparefinance.com. GoDaddy's auctions here. So what I want to show you with this is pass on Compare Finance. I wouldn't even pay $100 for it. The reason being, it sounds like it matters. It sounds like something people would say. The search volume. The beauty of this is true. It's in the eye of do you care what this is? It sounds like it might matter, but I don't think it does. I don't know. Yeah, that's why we use these tools. That's why we use things like SpyFu. 28. basically there's some people that are typing, it's typos probably coming in here. You can see down here in Google, they're even saying it's less. So basically, Compare Finance, it's practically a brandable type domain name. It sounds like you're comparing something with financial stuff, but what does it actually mean? We don't know. It's in the eye of the beholder. It's artwork. So in this case, I steer clear of it because I can't base it on data. I would, like I said, wouldn't even pay $100 for it. It's currently at $156. 2 days left. If you that Compare Finance action, there's a common thing that happens in domain names, and that is that people will try to take two words that sound good and put them together. Compare is a great word. There's so many things you compare that with. Compare cars, compare houses. You compare stuff all the time. But compare finance, we might compare interest rates, might compare loans, might compare credit cards. Okay. Hopefully that kind of shows how those two, they seem to be a miss. You got to use a tool like SpyFu, SEMrush to kind of get that, to see the data, to realize that, yes, it is a miss as far as the name. Continuing on down, I'll take us off of the screens for 1 second so I can chat. And sorry I missed you guys. I kind of missed everybody. Jake, yeah, good. So glad I made it on here. Sorry I missed a bit of chat. And again, hopefully we remain good. Hopefully the audio's going. And Matt was letting me know that the audio is good, making it. You wouldn't believe the chaos of wires that are over on the other side here that make all this possible. It is. It's. I don't know if it's impressive or embarrassing. I'll go with impressive. Okay, back to GoDaddy Auctions. So if you see something, let me know. Pages of data. So Ninja Nerd. It is Nerd Ninja. So Ninja Nerd, for example, would be, or Nerd Ninja. Either one of the domains fall into that idea of nerdness or woo, of artwork. So the idea, you know, I love art. I have like painter. I honestly view the businesses I create as my artwork, but I love all kinds of different art. And placing a price art is so difficult. It's kind of like it really just comes to value it at what you're at. Now you have to be aware that art is especially susceptible to this idea of anchoring. I don't know if you have heard of anchoring? The idea of anchoring a price. So if I was to, I'm just literally grabbing something off the thing. I'll bring up this is a coaster. Okay, I just grabbed it off of the table back here. A coaster is something you just keep your drinks from leaving rings on your tables and stuff. No big deal. However, if you were to, you know, so what do these sell for? Maybe $20 for like a stack of them or something like that. Maybe. So what I just did there, maybe it's $20 for a stack of them. I just anchored your idea of what a coaster is, $20. Realistically, it might be if you now, and I've already said 20. Even though I was guessing, suddenly $80 sounds expensive, $5 sounds like a deal. Even though maybe it only cost 10 cents to make and they're making a killing at $5. So when it comes to artwork, it says, look at this amazing piece of art. I need something better than coasters. I need something with color. Okay. Look at this art, the word use of color. I've seen art pieces with this kind of quality go millions of dollars. And I'm just kind of wondering, what do you value this at? What do you value this art at? You wouldn't have a freaking clue. But what I've done is anchored you at $2,000. I've anchored you at a couple $1,000. So now you would feel, you would feel it would be insulting to me to say, dude, it's worth $1.50 because it's just some stickers, you would probably be like, he said that the value could be a couple $1,000s. So now suddenly, even if you estimate that price at $100, I just made, $85 on you or $95 on you because I've anchored the price high, could sell it to you for maybe 100. Anyhow, that's anchoring. And art is 100, like it's completely based on anchoring and framing. So I was talking to Jake about, pricing a domain name. I believe he's just Jake in the chat. That's his name. Yep, Jake Warren, I believe, is his name on there. But this idea of anchoring, so sites like namebio.com and seeing as a domain seller, I want you to know that numerous domains sell for millions of dollars. Lots of domains sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars. I want you to know that because I'm anchoring what you can buy a domain at on 6-figure, 7-figure prices. When in reality, there's a heck of a lot of domains that are sold for a couple $100. What's the difference? It's the anchor. So if you're trying to sell them, you need to anchor your domain name to high price stuff. If you are on the other side and you're a buyer, you need to anchor the low side. However, you really can't, as a buyer, you can't anchor yourself. You can only know what you value it at, which is 100% the most important thing I can tell you is know the value you have for the domain before you make an offer. You have to know your limits before they anchor that value on you. You'd be surprised with how many times you can make an offer of a few $1,000s when they have a domain price $40,000. They'll be like, "Oh, I want $40,000 for this." Well, I'm offering $8,000, and they'll be like, "Oh, that's too low." And I'll just here's what I do. I've done this all the time, several times. When I'm patient, patience is important. I'll be like, "Well, I want to sell it. $8,000 is there. I can complete the transaction. Just let me know whenever you're ready to go. $8,000 is yours." So now you're putting that decision between that domain name and $8,000 in their arena, and you have to be willing to walk away. And you can only do that if you truly know the price value of that domain at. But how do you know that? It's artwork. Again, that's why I stick with keywords. That's why I stick with keywords, because you can. Now it's blurry. Yeah, I'm guessing it's going to happen. Things are probably going to get blurry. I'm trying, man. I'm trying. Hopefully, that's part of why I'm talking to you here instead of on the screens. But I'm going to go back to the screens here as well. So, when we go to screens, oh my gosh, okay. So when we use this keyword data, it allows us to, instead of anchoring based on the price somebody else has, anchoring on past sales data, we can anchor on what we can potentially do. What's the potential of that domain name? So I'll just tie us in Dog Groomers, because that's the big one that I bought last week. I believe I overpaid. However, it doesn't change the fact that the domain name is you can make money from any domain name. So luckily, it's a mistake I'll be able to work my way out of. However, when you type it in here, SEMrush shows 254,000 searches for this keyword. And when you drop it down here, you'll see where that number comes from. That comes from this raw Google data. Now, here's what SEMrush does not calculate into theirs that SpyFood does. SpyFood here is considering things in the search engines like local pack, basically the map pack that shows up when you do Google search. They know that this keyword, a good amount of traffic is going to go to that local pack. So if you're a national domain name like doggroomers.com, it's going to end up, you're going to lose a lot of the search volume to that local pack or to ads and other things. So SpyFu is trying to give you an estimate based on actual data, like who could you get if you ranked well with this domain name. So that's where this kind of information is coming from, 14,000. So, but that allows me to anchor, okay, 14,000. If I could get 14,000, what would that be to me? We know that there's hundreds of thousands of people searching total because Google does that. If I could just get to 14,000, what could I make from this? So right away, just under a basic idea, you know the domain's worth 14K, right? I mean, it's pretty liquid at $14,000. The question is, how much above that can you go? I look at some other data, mainly the cost per click and things, and I will let you know my first offer on this domain name was $68,000, which 99% of the time would have got the job done. That's when my ego got away. 68,000 was a get the job done offer based on keyword. I opened up too strong, and the rest is history. So, okay, going back over to the actual list. Oh, man. Anybody out there in Vegas? I know I got Phoenix people. I came a week after the heat wave. I mean, it's still going to end up being over 100 degrees outside every day, but it was 115 degrees the other day here, not at home. Yeah, I saw this domain name. I added this to my my watch list. Domain developments. Kind of a pointless domain name, but I thought it sounded like me, so personal brand. Roofing maintenance. So, what if you wanted to buy roofing.com? What if roofing.com was the primary domain that you wanted? Let me go out and just, I'm going to type it in while the screen is not being shared. Roofing.com domain, by the way. Very, very, very good. And it is not pulling anything up. What? Redirects to a roofing.io. What? What the heck? That's just absolutely insane. Who the hell would redirect the matching.com to an I? It looks like it's a bunch of spam or something. I'm not sure what's really here. Okay. Who would do that? Okay, so realistically, point being, roofing.com, which I'm saying it a bunch to probably get a bunch of type-in traffic. Let's say that everything was based on roofing. I'll go with one of my domains. I'll go with carrying.com. I own carrying.com. It's not developed, but so let's say like you have this amazing thing, amazing idea for, I don't know, carrying stuff, and you're like, I want to call it carrying. So CARRYING. I'm seeing that my connection, so hopefully things are working, continuing. So I love ING because it becomes more exclusive. When you get into, let me go back over to SpyFu, and I'm going to share out my screens, and I'm typing in, I'm going to go back to the roofing example just to get some good keyword. So what you're going to see is there's going to be some pretty good numbers. 35,000 here. And let's look down here. 135,000 searches, good cost per click, a lot of local companies. So this is the kind of domain name that I would be in love with 100%. So let's say you cannot get roofing.com, which it's hard to say whether you could right now, but let's say you can't. What other options would you have for your product? You can't add an S. You can't go with roofings.com, roofs.com. roof.com, depending on what you're going to do, maybe roofer.com, roofers.com. So you're blasting out keywords, and you would want to make a list and just see, like, what do you think of these different keywords that are similar to your original one? And then you want to type them in, figure out what they are, and then you can go out and see if those domains are actually available, if they're actually available for sale. This is the piece. This is exactly like, who directs a .com to an .io? Like that, like the owner of .io is who does that, I guess. I don't know. So, you need to know what all the possible alternative domains are for your domain. And not talking .coms. Don't bring in alternative endings or anything like that. Stay in the wheelhouse. Like, what are the home run domain names for your project? So, for example, when we were starting in towing, it started with auto towing, and I was like, I love this, good to develop it, but realistically, it's not the best there is. So I went on a search. We added towingcompany.com, towingcompanies.com, roadsideservice.com. We added all those domains. We brought them all together because I'm like, these are really good domains. However, what would the home run? The home run was always towing.com, but it was owned by somebody, and it was going to be really hard to get, really expensive. So we were doing our best with alternative primary domain names. You need to kind of do the same thing. What's the main one that you want? Find other ones around it. See if one of those will be kind of an A-level domain. If you do not have access to an A-level domain name, you need to do something else. Like, you have to. Domains are going to matter to anything that is keyword specific, anything that is not art, not a brandable domain name. If it is keyword based, like what consumers are looking for, those domains, you have to be the premium. You cannot rig it up. You cannot be one of these. I'm sure if we go looking down to this list of expired domains, we're going to see domains that people tried to rig up their keywords. So instead of roofing.com, they said roofings with an s.com. What the hell is roofings.com? Like, it's not a real word. Like, there's nothing there. That keyword does not exist. It's not a real thing. They're like, oh, it's one character away from the primary domain, so it must be good. No, it's 0. Like, one character away is nothing. You have to be proactive and know what your A-level domains are. Don't fall for the trap of adding a middle S, an ending S, characters to, like, no. Once you add anything away from the primary keywords, all that data, any data related to search traffic related to that keyword is 100% gone. It's gone. There is no residual, like, spillover or anything like that. Like, that's all like garbage. It's not going to happen. You need to be in the keyword game with an exact match domain. Do not play around with adding weird characters at the end, or just because it sounds right does not mean anything. Type it into SpyFood, type it into SEMrush, and get that exact match domain. Otherwise, don't get anything. Don't waste your money on anything else. I've made that mistake many a times. Luckily, that is one that I avoid like the plague nowadays. So let me get down to, click the wrong button. Hopefully that recovers. Here we go. So I want to get back to this first list. Last week we had somebody visit on the show from Slovakia, which I've already passed it, but what I'm ending this week in just a couple of days is visitslovakia.com, which I found hilarious. A coincidence of time. It's actually going for a few $1,000s, but if you are into travel, especially if you're from Slovakia, maybe that's a game for you. Freebrew.com, or a marketing domain, meaning you might use that for some kind of marketing campaign where you're giving away free something, tea brew, beer brew. more soda. So things like Swipe and Go, Market Clear, Soda, those are all, they fall in that brandable, like who they're going to go for. You're going to type those into the keywords. You're going to find that there's not much search volume for them, but they sound pretty good. They sound like something that if you put in a marketing campaign, they, like, people will be able to hear it and type it in without like misspelling things. There's value in that. The question is what's the value in that? That is the that's where a lot of that's where I differ from a lot of domain investors. Is I don't think there's much value in brandable. A couple $1,000 maybe. I don't know, a couple $1,000. I think that in many cases people are like, I don't know, like it's so tough. You know, I know that one word domains that are not keyword specific are it's great, but how great? So for example, let me try to come up with one. I'm gonna, hopefully this sounds correct, but like hugging.com, like giving somebody a hug, hugging.com. What a fun single word. It makes sense, assuming people can enunciate, which I can't always say things clearly, but hugging.com, boom, sounds fun. You know, you got to figure it's going to be worth a few $1,000s to get hugging.com, but is it worth $200,000? Like how would you value a brandable domain? It can't be just that it's one word. One word is, there's lots of domains that are one word that are, I would sell for a couple $100. I have some in my portfolio that are like, they're one word domains that I'm like, why did I buy this? I bought it because it was one word and I thought that I was freaking super smart, you know, 20 years ago or whatever, when I bought single word domains. And being one word is not enough. It needs to matter and connect with people, just like artwork. Does it connect with you? Then if it does connect with you and you like it and you could see it hanging on the wall of your house, then you value it and see if that value is worth it. You know, some days I feel like I can communicate some things pretty clearly. Other days I feel like I am not hitting the point very well. And I don't like those days. I'm feeling like today is one of those days. I love things like inspired teams. I don't know how I feel about the past tense inspired teams. I would much rather being inspired, inspiring teams, inspire. I don't know. Not a bad domain. It falls in the brandable. If I type that into SpyFu, we're going to see that it's going to be pretty expensive. Or I'm sorry, there's not going to be much keyword volume to it. Search for quality. So here in a couple weeks, I believe this is, I believe 3 weeks from now, we're going to be celebrating 1 year of this weekly show. I'm hoping, I say hoping a lot, but I am going to try to do some upgrades and get back to basics with the show. We'll see. But either way, a year of anything routinely is quite the accomplishment, in my opinion. Hopefully, you've set goals for yourself and routinely, out of habit, are working towards the direction that you're wanting to go. I am such a huge fan of habits. Habits are everything. You have to have a good set of habits. Sitelinker.com. What a tool name. Sounds like a tool. Let's see what the so I have a search engine optimization SEO background, And so this would be more of a brand, or sounds like the name of a tool. So Site Linker, this might be like a search and optimization tool that helps you get links and things like that. I like it from the perspective of brandable. It seems to describe what is going to happen with it. But as you can see, nothing really happened in the search engines. A lot of times I like looking at these questions, seeing if anything is kind of describes an industry that we can possibly go to. Not seeing anything, but sitelinker.com, if you work in the SEO game, you're creating a tool or something, might be a fun one for you to build on. My laptop is like freaking, the fan is so loud right now. I don't know if you can hear it in the audio or not. It sounds like it's ready to take off. I use two, like a tablet and then a laptop to stream, so I can get the actual stream off of my laptop. And evidently that tablet was overheating or something. I'm not sure what was going on, but it was having problems. Nothing like starting things off with a delay because all of your tech is completely wigging out. Isn't that the way? Or being at the home base back in the office, everything's kind of set up, boom, just hit. And now that I, knock on wood, have my audio fixed, I can pretty quickly get a stream going. Okay, we're going on to page 3, and we'll go a couple into this, and we will call it a day. Let me check out. I don't know if there's been any questions in chat. Just say that Jake's adding in by quality, and I cannot, like, this is, if you, the many domain investors out there will tell you, if you buy a domain name, a quality domain name, so should you spend the money? I believe that's what the heck the title of it, like, should you pay big money for domain name? The answer is, if it's quality. If it is a quality domain name, doggroomers.com is a quality domain name. It's liquid in the 5 figures. You know, I'll probably won't be able to sell it for 100,000 until I develop it out, but I never care to sell it because it's a quality domain name, and development on a quality domain name makes sense. So should you pay the big money for the domain name? Number one, does it fall in the art category, or does it fall into the exact match keyword type category? If it falls into the exact match keyword, you can absolutely spend 5 to 6 figures based on some data and make a good decision. If it is a piece of artwork domain, so a brandable domain name, a domain name that sounds something cool and it kind of describes maybe what you're doing, and it's all this abstract painting, whatever, in that case, chances are you should not pay over 4 figures for the domain name, unless it is just, I can't even give you an unless. I don't have a circumstance where I would pay over low 5 figures for a brandable domain. I'd need an example. Somebody'd have to give me an example of a domain they think is worth more than low 5 figures. That is a brandable, and maybe I'd be able to come up with something. So Jake's asking on this is for Dog Groomers. Came up with around 60. I offered 68,000 on the first one. To be quite honest, 68 was on the high range of my calculations. I looked at, so I'm going to pull up SEMrush here. I'm going to let it load before I share out the screen, so that way hopefully it doesn't drag me down too much. So I basically came into SEMrush and did this search right here. And I looked at this and my gut instinct or my initial reaction was, oh crap, I thought dog groomers would be more affordable. It turns out that it's like a couple 100,000 searches, way more than I expected. So I'm like going to the details. So based on that rule of thumb one that I'm using for like a couple hundred, maybe $1,000 domains, this would be a $250,000 domain. You got to go into the details. So I went over here and looked at these other characteristics of the data for this domain name. And I saw, yes, cost per click is really good. However, there's not always ads that appear for doggroomers.com. So, for example, I can spell right. When I typed it in, yeah, for example, right now, when I typed in dog groomers, sometimes there's ads and sometimes there's not. And that right there is a major hit for a domain. You'll hear me talk about this pretty frequently. You've got to type the domain name. You got to type the keywords into Google and see what's happening. Are people using the keywords or not? And when the ads show up, they tell you a lot. They show you what people are paying for to have in their name. And you'll see here many times grooming is the better word. Like dog grooming is the better word. So you'll see here in these local ones, Google is practically taking dog grooming. So when I saw that, I was like, there's no way in heck I'm doing 6 figures on this domain. So I pretty much took it at the high side of what I was looking at, which I can't remember if I offered, I think 68 was what I offered right off the bat. I should not have offered that much, to be quite, I've already said I think that's a mistake. I should have offered something along the lines of 26, a reasonable offer. In fact, I might have even mentioned that. I think I mentioned in the 20s, and it was kind of a broad, it did not get any traction. That's why I came back with, I believe, 68, which was 20-something was on the low side. That uses the keywords and says, okay, realistically, 20,000 based on the keywords is on a pretty reasonable price for the domain name. So let me actually go over to SpyFu. Let me go back over here because I think it illustrates what I'm trying to say better. And that is this $14,000 or this 14 number here. So this is what I don't like about SEMrush currently is they don't really look at the actual traffic. So I pretty much, using my experience, I knew that this would be more accurate with what dog groomers was going to generate, not that 245,000 searches up here. Now, 14,000, and I saw that the cost per click, $2, perfectly fine. So that kind of gave me that range in the 20s. Then from there, it's a matter of multiplying it up based on cost per click and kind of expanding it based on my business model. I know my business model enough to be able to know what we can make with the domain name. That matters, and that brings up a point that I wanted to freaking talk about earlier, but I did not. And that is, you have to know your business model. You have to know how you're going to make money from the domain name. If it is for a freaking pet project, you don't have any anticipation of making money, you better darn well not spend over 4 figures on the domain name. Like, why? Why would you spend $100,000 on a domain for the fun of it if you're going to develop it? You need to find something that would be cheaper if it's just for a pet project or something that's going to maybe make some money. When I first started an internet business, the domains that I was getting were hand-reg garbage domains that were in the brandable category, and I built my businesses on those. Eventually, I found the domain names mattered enough to pay more money for domains. So, dang it, I lost track. I lost track of my brain. Knowing your business model. So I know with my business model, I talk about that local Legion 300. I talk about that pretty frequently. That is truly how we look at a domain name. We look at a domain name, weigh its strength versus the market that we're trying to attach. So now if I call 100 dog groomers, do I believe that I can get one of them to say yes? Can I find one per 100? So now we'll need to make, 3,000 calls or what, 3,000 calls, and we'll have our 300 companies. It's all a matter of experience, but we know the value of domain names monetized in the way that we monetize them. We know our business model well. So the question is, whatever you're going to do to monetize a domain name, whether it's selling a product or developing out in a similar way to what we do with the towing.com or exact match keyword, do you know your business model and how you're going to make money enough to be able to say this domain name's worth it? So we look at the keyword searches, and then we compare that to the how we're going to make money, our profit margins, and then it's just a matter of putting it into a marketing equation. For us, knowing that if we get to our first 300 customers, we're going to be able to pretty easily be profitable with one of them. And we have a pretty good path to reaching our first 300 customers. So, okay, we can spend that money. If you don't have successes in developing a domain name in a similar way, then you certainly want to steer clear of super expensive ones. Try your luck at, we buy domains all the time for still 3-figure, sometimes 4-figure domains that fall in the great starts. I leave quite a few of them out in the market to where others can get them. Hopefully developers get them. Great, $1,000, $1,200 domains. Matt, who is on this call, I'll mention his domain. I don't have his permission, but I'm going to anyways. He registered just 2 weeks ago, I believe, GameReleases.com for under $1,000, which I'm like under $1,000 for a domain name that has great. I'm typing it in even though you can't see it. But GameReleases.com, I spelled it wrong big time. Release. Anyhow, there's a lot of volume around keywords associated with game releases. So especially when you, okay, that's another down the road type of thing. So anyhow, great domain name can be developed content based. People go there expecting a certain amount of content, certain kind of content, easy to deliver on it, and then you can just figure out the monetization. $1,000. I mean, people buy entertainment stuff all the time for $1,000. So, and this is a good question, which this is going to be how I wrap things up, because I just realized it's been an hour. So, does it depend on getting to the first page of Google? And the answer is no. It actually doesn't. The future of your site depends on getting to the first page of Google. In our case, we know that's the direction we're going to go. Our model will put us there over time. However, our purchase decisions are made based on those first 300 customers or 100 customers. What can we do, or can we monetize a domain name in other ways? Weeks back, I talked about a page on towing.com that is one page on towing.com that was generating $2,400 a month. And that page was created specifically because we knew we could target that market with a great domain name, and then that would give us the money we needed to pay off the loan for towing.com. You just got to find the angle that allows you to do it. The domain name, a great domain name, gives you the authority and validation to where you don't have to be on the front page of Google yet. As long as you're working on it, you're going to get there as long as that exact keyword, you need to freaking do a better job than anybody else at providing content for that keyword. If that's not part of your mission, which for us it is, like towing.com is the best site out there for finding freaking towing stuff. Like there's nothing out there that's better. And that, so it deserves its rank. Same thing happens with our other sites. We buy them the exact match keyword. We develop them in such a way that we know it will be the best domain, the best website for ranking on Google. Now, whether Google agrees or not, it's up to them. I mean, there's all kinds of tricks of the trade, which we try not to play that game. We just try to offer great content. We typically end up on the first page, though. So yeah, the payout is when you get to the first page. That's when your prices go up. But when we price things, we always price, membership is always really cheap at the beginning. It's based on the domain name alone. In fact, the fact that we paid, I'll let you in on this, the fact that we paid $104,000 for doggroomers.com will be part of how we price. So we will say, hey, Dog Groomers, $19.95 to be listed, $19.95 a month to be a featured member in your area. And that gets you listed on this expensive we bought this domain for $104,000. You don't have to pay that. We paid it, and now you just pay us $19.95 a month, and we make sure that that expensive domain name benefits you in your local area. So it's in some ways it can be a marketing incentive to kind of say, hey, yeah, we get it. You're not going to go buy a six-figure domain for your business. It makes complete sense because you're local. Well, we went out, got this giant brand, and now we're bringing it and empowering you to use it. So instead of you paying $104,000, anchoring back to what we talked about early on about brandables, it's $104,000 for this domain name, but we're going to share your local area with you on doggroomers.com for only $19.95 a month. So you can kind of see that the price mattered. Anyhow, hopefully that's good information. I love that little that little pricing trick, and hopefully for those of you who have stayed to the last little bit, hopefully that idea of kind of using the price to give you your starter price is helpful information, because that's like a big deal. Like as you rank in Google, you just add that into your price. $19.95 was for doggroomers.com by itself. Now that we're really ranked at, like for towing.com, it used to be $19.95 a month to list on towing.com back in 2007 when we weren't ranking on Google. Well, ranking poorly. But as we developed the site, and now we're generating a crap load of Google traffic and rank really well, now it's $99 a month. That's all 100% added on because of the features we've added, but then also the traffic and the exposure we get through Google. So there's an escalation. There you go. So as Jake just mentioned in the chat, I'm in Vegas. I come here to trap myself in a room with good places to go out. Big things that I plan on announcing in a few weeks that I just will take a domain name and turn it into a towing.com type business that implements all these little things that I try to tell you that you can do with your domain name. A lot of that is being planned over the next few days here in Las Vegas. Just me in a room, using Adobe XD to like spec out things and create a little bit of a prototype. Great things are coming to the domain development world, especially for those who are scrappy entrepreneurs and want to use a domain name as to develop business on. I'll tell you about it here in the future. Anyhow, thank you for joining me on this tech disaster / making the most of it domain to profit that we just had. And I will see you. I'll be back home at the desk in my wonderful studio back in the office in Cincinnati next week. I will see you then. Thank you for watching Domain to Profit. Take care.